The environmental issues of our time are complex problems and cannot be remedied with technology alone. We are up against incredible challenges, including feeding a growing population, the continued loss of the world's forests, the collapse of fish species in the ocean, the depletion of our fresh water resources, and the overarching threat of climate change, which makes all of these problems much worse. In 2012, the planet as a whole emitted a record-breaking 35.6 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, and the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is surging along with our annual emissions. In 2012, atmospheric CO2 concentrations rose by the largest amount in 15 years to a new level of 395 parts per million, most of the way to the 450 parts per million that climate scientists have articulated as the threshold for dangerous warming. Relying solely on technology to solve climate change is too costly. The UN projects that the Kyoto Protocol would cost $150 billion and would delay warming only 6 years. Half that amount, $75 billion, would allow us to provide clean drinking water, education, better sanitation, and healthcare to every person in the world. The International Energy Agency projects that switching from fossil fuels to low-carbon sources of energy will cost $44 trillion between now and 2050. It is inefficient to devote so many of our funds to investing in technology that will allow us to continue living unsustainably. Climate change is a pressing issue for our time, and it is too costly and uncertain to rely solely on technology to solve this problem and its effects. Globally, about 1 billion people around the world lack reliable access to potable water. Groundwater depletion is a global phenomenon. At least 2 billion people rely on groundwater as their primary water source, and most of their water comes from these aquifers that are at risk of running dry in the coming decades, so that the number of people who currently already lack access to a reliable supply of potable fresh water is on the rise. The depletion of freshwater sources is too big of a problem to be solved by technology.
Even if these unrealistic geoengineering schemes are actually able to be implemented, the potential harmful effects will outweigh any hoped-for benefit. For instance, in January 2009, despite widespread opposition and months of protesting from environmental groups and NGOs, LOFEX was implemented. LOFEX was a German scheme for iron fertilization of the ocean. The hope was that by seeding the ocean with iron, diatoms would consume and grow around the iron, and that these diatoms would cause an algal bloom that helped consume CO2 from the air and replenish the atmosphere with oxygen. Iron was haphazardly dumped over a 900 kilometer squared area in the southern Atlantic Ocean. Now, although an algal bloom developed, it was the wrong type of algae. The atmosphere was not magically replenished with oxygen, and instead this scheme was just a waste of millions of dollars that only hurt the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem. Cue pics of dead fish. Another geoengineering proposal is solar radiation management, the control over the sun's rays either through the launching into space of gigantic mirrors to reflect the rays, or the spraying of reflective aerosols into the stratosphere, thereby hopefully cooling the Earth. Even putting aside the enormous prohibitive costs of such a far-fetched scheme, possibly tens of billions of dollars each year, there are many probable harmful side effects. The non-reduction of greenhouse gases, continued ocean acidification, worsened ozone depletion, unpredictable changes in global precipitation, potential for military or corporate use, ruining satellite communications, ruining astronomical observations, etc. The list goes on. These lunatic geoengineering schemes have too many harmful side effects for us to rely upon them.
Developing new and useful technology is going to be futile if no change is made to our standards of living and our ways of life. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the global population is estimated to be 9 billion by 2044. However, overpopulation of the human species is already an issue, and human action is a main factor in all the environmental issues our planet faces. If humans do not change the way we populate, the way we consume, and the way we treat our resources, technology is not going to be nearly as successful as it possibly could be. We have no idea if the technology now could really do enough to save nature, nor do we know when or even if the truly revolutionary technology will come around that will allow us rich people to continue living in the way to which we are accustomed, as well as allow other countries to develop to the point where America is today without completely destroying the earth. We also have to recognize that the way in which humans interact with the environment poses a threat to other species. Furthermore, when we discuss developing new technologies, we have to keep in mind the effects not just on humans, but also on the other species who call Earth home. Technology is not going to be this wonderful savior that will solve all the environmental problems on our planet. Saying that technology can save nature and fix the hot mess that humans have created is akin to putting a Scooby-Doo bandage on a severe burn. You're simply distracting people from the serious situation at hand without doing much to fix the problem.